my name's Rachel and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are going to be going through my pension. We're going to be going through my self-invested personal pension, or SIPP, and I will be telling you exactly what I hold in there, all the investments that I'm holding, how much I've made on each investment. So just to give you a little bit of background around my SIPP, I basically decided to start managing it back in May 2020. So what I did is I took one of my workplace pensions from my previous jobs and took the money from that and transferred it into my SIPP so that I could start choosing the investments that I wanted to make for my pension and for my retirement. The reason that I opened a SIPP is because I wanted to take control of my finances and my retirement, and I really wanted the flexibility to be able to choose the investments that I wanted to be making. So I'm going to go into a little bit of detail around each and every investment. I have funds, trusts, ETFs, and then also a couple of individual stocks and shares in my SIPP, so I'll be sharing all of those with you. You might have noticed there that I haven't mentioned any bonds that I'm invested in my self-invested personal pension, and a lot of companies do recommend, or if you were to get financial advice, they would recommend that you put some money into bonds for your personal pension or for your pension pot. Now I am currently in my 30s, so for me the recommended amount of bonds would be around about 20 to 30% in bonds. However, I have made the decision, and it's a personal decision for me, to not invest in bonds at the moment. This is just my own personal decision, but obviously if you want to go and speak to a financial advisor or manage your own pension, it might be worth considering if you want to put a percentage of bonds into your pension as well. But I just wanted to say I don't have any at the moment. Normally they would say that as you get older, the percentage of bonds that you have in your pension should increase. So as I said, I'm in my 30s, so they'd say around 20 to 30% should be in bonds. In your 50s, they say around 50% should be in bonds. And then as you get older, so into your 70s, 70% in bonds. That is the main thinking around investing in bonds. However, it's not something I'm doing at the moment. So I just wanted to say this is by no means the perfect makeup of a self-invested pension. This is just what I'm doing, and at the moment I'm focusing on growing my pension pot rather than investing in bonds. So this self-invested personal pension is currently sitting at a value of £12,200, and that is, as I said, split over funds, shares, ETFs, and then also investment trusts. So for funds, the book cost for the funds that I invested in, so that's how much I bought them for, was £6,060.93, and they're now sitting at a value, so since May 2020, so we're looking at a year and 4 months later, they're sitting at a value of £8,519.09, which is an increase of £2,458.16, which is a 40.56% gain. Now later in this video I will share with you exactly the funds I'm invested in. Also for the shares, the ETFs and the investment trust, I'll tell you exactly which ones I'm invested in, but I'm just giving you this breakdown to start with. I'll put a timestamp on it if you want to skip to that bit instead. But for shares, I started back in May 2020 with a value of £1,045.57 in individual shares. It's now sitting at £1,651.11, which is a difference of £605.54, or a 57.91% increase in the value of those shares. Now obviously that's a really good increase in that amount of time. However, the majority of my portfolio is not made up of individual stocks and shares, obviously because they are a little bit riskier than investing in funds, ETFs and investment trusts, because funds, ETFs and investment trusts are much more diverse than investing in individual stocks and shares. Moving on next, so the next category, I hold some ETFs in this account. The value and the book cost of those were £503.50, and their current value is £477.36, so that is a loss of 5.19%, or £26.14. Now I have only just invested in this ETF, and it is one that I do not plan to sell and will hold on to for at least the next 20 years, so I'm not bothered that I've made a small loss in the few weeks that I have held it. The next section is investment trusts. Again, this is fairly new to this SIPP. So I invested £1,516.72 into investment trusts. They're now sitting at £1,552.62, which is an increase of £35.90 or 2.37%. That, as I said, is another new addition to this portfolio. So again, those gains are quite small. So overall, since May 2020, I have made 33.68% on all of my investments. And if you want to break that down into how much I would have made over a year, it's around about 24.44% in a year, which I'm really, really pleased with. Anything over 20% in a year is something that I'm very, very happy about, and we should see how it does next year. Now, I am going to be making some changes to the self-invested pension over the next year, so if you fancy subscribing to this channel, then please do, and I will share with you all the changes that I've made and the growth that I'm seeing with this SIPP over the next year. Now I'm going to move into each and every individual investment, just so you know exactly what I'm holding here. This will probably change in the future, but I do plan to hold on to all of the investments that are currently in here, and I'll potentially be looking to add some more investments as I top this account up. But as it stands, the first investment in funds is Polar Capital Global Tech, which is up 49% since I purchased it. The next investment in a fund that I have is in Baillie Gifford Positive Change. That is up 39.8% since I invested in it. Then the next investment that I have within my funds is AXA Framlington Global Tech. This is up 60.4% since I invested in it, which is huge returns. You will see now that I have two different global tech funds within this account, and this is absolutely not something that I would recommend. I'm really pleased that they've done so well, and I will hold on to them. However, it would make much more sense to just have one fund focusing on global tech rather than two, but this is just something that I did when I first started investing in my SIPP, and I don't plan to sell them. I will just hold on to them in this format, but it probably would have made more sense to have just chosen one tech fund rather than two. However, having had a look at their top 10 holdings, obviously there is some crossover, but they are made up of some very different tech stocks anyway, so they're not completely the same fund. They are a little bit different, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend having two tech funds in your self-invested pension, because if the funds are quite similar, you might have a lot of crossover in those funds, and it might make more sense just to invest in a tech ETF rather than having the fees for investing in different funds. However, I've been really, really happy with the performance, and I will continue to hold it. It just wouldn't be the way that I would have structured this had I started it today. But, you know, you live and you learn, and I'm still really happy with the performance. So the next fund that I hold in my SIPP will come as no surprise, because I really am a fan of this fund and this investment. So it's the Baillie Gifford American Fund. Now I added this more recently, so it's up 13.2% for me, which I'm really, really pleased with. The next one is Janus Henderson Global Equity, which is up 41.8%. And those are all of the funds I currently hold in my SIPP. Now moving on to shares. So these are two individual shares that I bought in my SIPP. They are UK based shares because I use Barclays Smart Investor for my SIPP, and you can only buy UK based shares on Barclays Smart Investor at the moment. The first one is ironically Barclays, so I bought a Barclays share in my Barclays Smart Investor SIPP, and it is up 68.8% since I bought it. So I bought it for £703.28. It's now worth £1,187.71. So it's done really, really well for me. The next one that I'm holding is Experian PLC, which is up 35.3% since I invested in it, and that's just a smaller amount of £342.29 I invested. It's now worth £463.40. So just a couple of shares in this portfolio. I probably won't add any more individual stocks and shares in this SIPP. I will probably stick to investing in funds, trusts and ETFs Moving on now to ETFs, I have just one ETF in the SIPP and I'm potentially looking to add more in the future. The one ETF that I have in here is the iShares Global Clean Energy ETF. I only purchased this recently, it's currently down 5.19%, but this is something that I really do plan to hold on to for the long term. I would hope that this is a sector that will grow in the coming years. And then finally, moving on to investment trusts, I have one investment trust in the SISA, and it's again quite another personal favourite. It is the Scottish Mortgage Investment Trust. I recently added this to my portfolio. It is up 2.36%. As I said, I've recently added it in the last few weeks, so not up a huge amount, but I'm hoping that it will continue to do well into the future because they have had some phenomenal annualised returns. So their 5-year annualised returns are 35%. So really strong returns. It'll be interesting to see how they do into the future. So those are all the holdings that I currently have in this self-invested pension. I hope you found this video interesting. I do absolutely appreciate that this is not the most diverse portfolio. It is also probably not the most well-structured portfolio, but that is something that I am planning to work on in the coming months and years. But I am really pleased to see that return of just over 33% since May last year. So if you're interested to see how I make some changes to my SIPP in the future and what I'm investing in the future, and also see the performance of this SIPP, then please do subscribe to this channel and I will keep you updated on how it's going. Let me know if there's any holdings that you currently have in your SIPP that are doing really well for you. I would love to hear about them. Please do pop any questions in the comments down below and I will definitely get back to you. Thank you so much for watching this video and I hope you're all doing really well. Bye bye.